All right, our next speaker is Ryan Jespersen from Wowza Media Systems, who's going to talk about how to quickly build 4K and VR 360 live streaming workflows.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? You guys staying awake? Yeah? Shots on Epiphan after this. No, I'm kidding. So what we're going to do, if you guys, show of hands, who knows Wowza? All right, that's good news. About 5 years ago, that would have been like 2 hands. But so we do live streaming server software. We also do video on demand streaming. And as you guys know, if you've been at NAB this year, VR 360 was all the craze, as it is here in the workshop. So there's a whole bunch of VR and 360 vendors that are using Wowza software to live stream to global audiences, right? And in fact, we've got one right here. This is a Optic 360 camera. It's got 3 cameras built in, and it works off over a PoE switch. So I've got a local environment here, a local router, and I have a PoE injector that's just powering it and also delivering the stream. And then what I'm also going to do is show this workflow and then also how to do 4K as well. And for today's demo, I'm actually going to use our Wowza GoCoder app. And GoCoder is a free app that Wowza makes that turns your mobile device into iOS or Android into a mobile encoding product. So you can capture your video and audio, you can connect it to Wowza Streaming Engine or Wowza Streaming Cloud, and then be able to deliver that to a player and then scale it right to a CDN. And the great thing about this is that with the iPhone 6s and the Samsung S6 and above, they have 4K capabilities right in the phone. So if you're looking for a 4K workflow, it's a really, really easy one. So I'm going to show that demo. And then what we did at Streaming Media West, I did a demo with Vmix, and Vmix has the capability to do 4K encoding. So we actually used a Panasonic GH4 and we connected it, and then we plugged that into Wowza and we did 4K streaming. So this is more of kind of a high-end production workflow using the Vmix Go. We don't have a Vmix Go set up for this demo because I wanted to show the 360 as well, but there is a Vmix booth that's set up with, I think, LiveX is a local company that resells for them. Check out the Vmix Go. It's a wonderful product, really great. But this is also another workflow that we showed up, and I think that video is on the Streaming Media West website. And then finally, what I'm going to do is show this Optic 360 camera. Now, some devices work slightly differently. So VideoStitch makes the Aura device that they have a booth over here. They've also had a traditional device where they're using a GoPro rig, right, which is mini HDMI to HDMI, and then they're capturing that to USB, and you have 6 USB connections going into a laptop. It's really not the best workflow. It's very clunky. And so they've developed this Aura, which is very similar to the Optic. It has a PoE switch, and then it does the encoding on a separate box, and they do some great high-end resolution. And then Teradek came out with a Teradek Sphere. So that's a new device that they have that you can actually daisy chain and be able to create, grab these GoPro rigs, and then be able to aggregate those signals, stitch them together, and then deliver that. So we're doing a full session on VR 360 tomorrow afternoon. I think it's like at 3 p.m. That I'm going to do showing a few of those different workflows. But today, in just 20 minutes, I wanted to introduce you guys to just one 4K workflow and one 4K 360 workflow using Wowza and these products you see right here. All right, so I'm going to jump into Wowza Streaming Engine. You can see by the IP address here that we're actually running this locally on my machine. So I have Wowza Streaming Engine running on this. And the reason for this is sometimes, as you guys know, the bandwidth here sucks. So I wanted to not be restricted by the upload bandwidth, so I could do this. So hopefully all my technology works well. I'm going to airplane my iPhone screen. And hopefully you guys can see what I'm seeing. There we go. So there's my iPhone, the one I'm holding up right here. We have an app called Wowza GoCoder. And so you can see I've loaded that up, and now I'm actually connected to the Wi-Fi here, and I can use my device either vertically or horizontally. You should never do vertical video. Just that's my moment. So now I'm capturing you guys, right? So inside of this Wowza GoCoder app, I'm going to click on this video options. And in here, you can see I have a UHD selected. So here I can do up to 2160p in 4K using my iPhone 6s. And you can see there's a variety of other options. And what I've done is I've connected this. I'm doing video only, so we don't get an echo when we watch this live here in just a sec. I have a few other options in here, but I'm going to click on Done. The other option I have here is to change the bitrate. So for 4K, we're giving you the option of 4000K or above, all the way up to 10,000K. And all I have to do now is just tell this stream where to go. So what I've done is I can connect this to Wowza Streaming Cloud, which is our cloud service. And then I can also use Wowza Streaming Engine, which is what I'm doing today because I have it running here locally. And you can see here's my local host running off this little Wi-Fi device. I'm going to click on Done. And now I'm going to click on this stream button. And there you go, it's connecting, the stream has started, and technology is working wonderfully, thank God. All right, so let's jump in here and let's see how this looks coming into the server. So if I click on live, I've just sent this into this live application, and here you can see is that Go coder signal. If I pull this up, it's coming in at that configured bitrate at 4.3 megabits per second. If I click on test players, now I can actually preview this stream that's running in here. So you can see as I move this is coming in over our Wowza protocol. There's going to be a little bit of a delay just with the repackaging to these different protocols. But as you can see, now we're delivering this in 4K. So what we could do now is you can see all the different options here. There's Adobe RTMP, there's Adobe HDS, Microsoft Smooth, Apple HLS, MPEG Dash. So now we can grab this and we can actually deliver this 4K signal into a player like JW Player or BitDash, or the BitDash player, or Video.js, or all these different players that are out there. You can put this on your website. Now you see in this scenario, I'm doing this just in a local environment, but if you're really streaming this to a global audience, you want to run this out in the cloud, use a CDN to deliver this stream, but you can see the 4K capability. It doesn't do it justice on a mobile phone with poor lighting and all that, right? But this is a very quick 4K workflow. What we can also do in Wowza is we have a transcoding capability, and Wowza transcoder allows you to take in this 4K stream, deliver that 4K to very high-end devices that can play back 4K, and then you can also transcode to multiple different resolutions and bit rates. There's no point delivering 4K to a mobile device that can't play it back or doesn't have the bandwidth available. So this is where really Wowza has made its name, is we do live stream transcoding. We can take in that high-end resolution and then also transcode on the fly to multiple different resolutions, deliver those adaptive bit rates to different devices, and the device and the player, like JW Player, will intelligently decide which stream you should see. So very quickly, I know that's just a couple of minutes, we got a 4K workflow up and running. And our cloud service, Wowza Streaming Cloud, also gives you the ability to do 4K streaming into it. So if you do more high-end production, that's possible too. So what we noticed in the last 6 months is people were taking our 4K capabilities and they were then putting that into a VR360 workflow. They were stitching these different signals together. How these cameras work is each of them have X amount of resolution. I think this one has 1.2K in each camera, and then it actually stitches it together on the device, and then it gives you kind of a flat view, right? It just kind of puts it, and then the player is responsible for wrapping that around and giving you that stereoscopic experience. So I want to show you guys really quick how to do this. Before I jump into that, one of the things that's happening with 4K is we're talking about a ton of bandwidth. And now we get into VR360, especially with stereoscopic, you're talking about twice the resolution to both eyes. You're talking about huge bandwidth, right? Enormous bandwidth that's going to create problems for cost, create problems for networks to be able to transmit that kind of data. One of the things that we've embraced at Wowza is we're pretty platform and codec agnostic. So one of the things that we've done is we've enabled H.265 for people who want to use HEVC as a codec. And then we also do VP9 or VPX transcoding. So, and when VP10 is available, you can use that. And these codecs allow you to do more efficient transcoding of a signal, so you can create smaller files from the same resolution and have less loss in that codec. It's just more modern codecs. So if I go into my transcoder profiles, this is a server I have running out in the cloud. I'll just show you guys real quick. We have a whole variety of different transcoder templates. Here you can see we have the H.265 template, and then we've also configured one for WebM. And if I come in here, I can show you guys, this is actually using the WebM codec, or the VP9 codec inside of the WebM wrapper. And we work closely with Google to actually create this integration. And this allows you to, we're actually working very closely with YouTube and doing VP9 delivery straight to YouTube. Of course, YouTube's a Google entity, so they're trying to adopt and use VP9. In fact, they transcoded their entire YouTube library, or started to last year, over to the VP9 codec. The great thing about this as well, for those of you interested in VP9, is it's a royalty-free codec, so you don't have to pay anyone anything to use it, which is also becoming very popular. That I actually don't know, so I'd have to defer that to our CTO, or I could get back to you on that question. But thanks for making me look stupid. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to plug in hopefully I can gain your trust back by showing you a cool VR360 demo. So what I've done is I've connected over RTSP. RTSP is a very low latent protocol that's been used for many, many years, and it's very popular with IP cameras. So they transfer over IP, a lot of security cameras are doing this. We're partnering with like Panasonic and Sony and Axis that are three big IP camera manufacturers. And you're seeing a lot of them now that can do 4K. They can do really advanced, great lenses that they're building into these IP cameras. In fact, if you go to NAB or IBC, a lot of those events now are being produced strictly with IP cameras. So that same kind of technology is happening here. And you'll notice there's no power cable here. There's only one Ethernet cable, right? A Cat6 cable that's coming in. And I have this PoE switch that injects power into that Ethernet cable. So that's how most of these 360 cameras are going. They're doing the encoding on the device, they're stitching it together on the device, and it's just one cable to both power it and transfer the data to the internet or to your streaming server. So it makes it really portable and easy to use. It's also becoming popular with surveillance. So if you want to use one of these to have a surveillance 360 view, oftentimes someone robs a gas station, you have one angle, you can't see what else is going on. With this, it gives you the option to do that. So you can see here that I've got Wowza streaming engine. This is local again, and I've got this Optic stream up and running. I know it's maybe a little hard to see. Let me zoom in. So right here, it's connecting over this local address over RTSP. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to zoom out again so we can actually look at this preview stream. It's coming in at 4 megabits per second. So I actually went in and configured it at a decent 4K resolution, a decent bit rate for 4K resolution. I'm going to click on test players. Now I just want to take a quick look at what the stream looks like. And what we're doing is we're taking the RTSP signal in, and here it is in RTMP. And you can see it's flattened out this kind of round view into a 2D plane, right? And it's spread that out. So what happens now? How do I send this signal? Wowza can transcode this. We can repackage it to different protocols like Apple HLS. But how do you then deliver this to a player? BitDash makes a player called BitDash 360 Player that allows you to embed that on your website. If you guys have looked at YouTube 360, you can kind of use your mouse to kind of pan around. And then Next Streaming, NEX Streaming, is making a mobile player. And that's what I'm going to show for the demo today. The cool thing about it, it has both a view that you can move it and see, and then it also has a stereoscopic view. And I'm going to use these Google Cardboard glasses to hopefully show you guys what that looks like. So let me go ahead and do that. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. And while I'm doing that, I'll show you real quick. I've pulled this up in Vlc Media Player, which if you guys don't know VLC, it is just awesome. It's a great way to kind of test a stream. And you can see that there the full resolution of what this looks like. So what I've done is I've pulled this up. I'm going to pull up Next Player. You can see it right here. And in the session tomorrow, I'm going to give the URL to actually download this. They built an SDK available for you guys to view this on iOS and Android devices. Fortunately, I pulled this up in my history, and here's that local address. Now, you'll notice this is an Apple HLS stream that we're creating. So we're pulling in RTSP, and then Wowza's repackaging that into Apple HLS. So because HLS is inherently latent, there's going to be a little bit of latency here with it. If you guys wave, which I know you guys will, it's going to take a while for that to see it. So you'll see here as I move my phone around, I can actually see this view that's coming out of this particular camera. So there you guys are. Nobody's going to wave? Really? Come on. So you can see now I'm using the thing, and I'm looking. I can look up. I can look down. I can completely have a 360-degree view that's coming off of this Gyro Optic device. And the resolution you can see is actually pretty good. That's kind of creepy. I can look at myself demoing this. But can you guys see that okay? It looks all right, right? So the Next Player, they're actually building this SDK that you can then build into your own app. So if you want to do 360 capabilities, I'm going to pitch them because we've been working with them. They've been great to work with. Definitely look them up, and I'll pull up their information here in just a sec. So there's this view using the player inside of here, right, and showing that in HLS. What I'll do now is I'm actually going to change this to stereoscopic view. So you'll notice these kind of Google Cardboard glasses in the bottom right corner. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to split this up into two different signals, and that's the first time I've ever seen it go green. All right, let me try this one more time. The pressure's on now. There it is. Man, it's a hard crowd. No applause or anything. All right, so I'm going to put this in here, and while I'm looking around like an idiot, you guys can actually see what I'm looking at. So as I look around, I can now see in both my eyes this kind of view. And these Google Cardboard glasses aren't the best, but this really gives you the view. And if you guys want to look at this after the session, come up and look. In the session tomorrow, we're going to be giving these away, so come see it. I think it's at 3:30, 4 p.m. tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a session showing this, and we'll have these giveaways for everyone in the room. But that's pretty much it. So the components that you kind of need to do 360 streaming, you need the rig, and you'll see a lot of people using these GoPro rigs. They're like 6 camera, 8 camera rigs. You have to use mini HDMI to HDMI, use a HDMI to USB converter like these Magewell devices. Then you've got to capture it, use Video Stitch or some kind of stitching software. You have to have a separate laptop for that, and then you got to deliver it out. That workflow, I think, is going to go away here very soon. You're going to see cameras like this that have embraced this kind of PoE technology, the kind of IP camera technology, and they're putting better and better lenses into it. And a good example of this is what Video Stitch has done with their Aura. They've built this really great device. They have a separate stitching box, and they can do extremely high resolutions with VR. And it's kind of new space. I think we have 5 or 6 vendors out here who are pitching VR 360 cameras. So I encourage you to go look. They all have great demos. And then a lot of them, 360 is really the idea of using multiple cameras and stitching that all together. The virtual reality part is where you need to engage with that content. So you're going to see people start building apps around that where you can engage with particular content. And I think that's all very immature right now, and that's going to develop as things progress. But I guess the only pitch I'll make you from the Wowza side is, we support it from the 4K resolution perspective, and as those resolutions continue to grow, you'll see more people start to use other codecs. Currently it's H.264 AAC. And then what's also happening is people are now doing ambient audio as well. So they're pulling in audio from different sources. They put in 5-point surround sound, right? So people can get that immersive experience with those Oculus Rift glasses or other goggles as well. So I know that's a lot of information in a short session, but that's the whole idea of this discovery track. Any questions?
Can I bring the microphone around so that your question is recorded on the video, please?
Thank you. Hi. Hello. So the stitching happens inside the camera, or are you using a piece of software inside the laptop for that?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't our company, so this is a partner of ours. Gyro Optic, the stitching happens inside the camera. And you can go in there and you can log in through the IP address of the camera, and you can configure it and change resolution and all that. With the Video Stitch device, they have a separate box that actually does the stitching. I can see them eventually. I mean, I'm not speaking on their behalf. I encourage you to go and talk to them. I can see them eventually building the stitching technology into the device. It's just to have the CPU power or even a GPU to be able to stitch that. Sometimes you're at the mercy of how much you can fit in a small profile. Yeah, but I think that these are much more portable. They're much more usable. The other device, you got to start somewhere, right? And that's where they started. But these devices are pretty big and pretty lumpy.
Other questions?
Over here.
Hi.
Hey.
Just curious about this. In terms of the live streaming, enabling live streaming, it's pretty awesome. But if something is going on that's a major event or whatever, is their ability to bookmark or to, sort of tag or that so that then they can go back and refer to it later on, like post live stream?
Yeah, I think that's where Wowza kind of fits in more, is we can add the clip extraction, so you want to make a replay or you want to create or record the content for video on demand delivery. If you want to add markers, you could do, and think about this in a live stream scenario. We had a partner of ours during the Australian Open in January, right, the tennis tournament, and they were doing 360 ads that were inserted in with the live feed. So they were doing it in stadium, but think about the advertising for that. You can actually create 360 content to pitch content, right? And it's kind of interesting what's happening, and a lot of it is, I think the market's trying to define, people are kind of waiting to see what's happening with VR 360. I'm a skeptic, to be honest. I don't think it's going to stick, but there's enough people that have come to us, and we've seen real business from it at the Wowza side, that I think it is going to be here to stay. So I don't know what that means for the future of our society, but but I think the technology is getting cooler and cooler, and you see some real use cases that are actually very applicable, education environments. I know Duke University, who we work with, is looking at it as a potential for doing immersive experiences for medical surgeries, right? And one of the cool implementations they did in 4K specifically, they added a piece of code in JW Player, because I'm a skeptic with 4K too. Like, why have 4K if most people don't have the monitor to see the resolution? But what they did is they were delivering 4K to JW Player, and then you could zoom in on the part of the screen that you want to get a full 1080p experience. And it leaves it up to the student to decide what part of the surgery they want to watch. And they were noticing that with 1080p, they were missing on opportunities for students to learn. They wanted to see this part of the surgery that's happening, and they couldn't see it. That's a very innovative use of 4K. I see that being with 360 too, you know, missing those moments, someone's interested in something else. I also think maybe it's not really a second screen experience, but I can see people wanting to be more engaged with an in-stadium, what's happening in the tunnel as your favorite soccer or football team is coming out, right? But there's a lot of cool stuff happening. Surveillance as well, we see a lot in that space. But
One more question.
What about frame rates for 4K? 60 frames per second, or not yet, or?
yeah, so we're supporting 60 frames per second up to 1080p. With 4K, I don't think we're doing more than 30 frames per second currently, but there's a roadmap for that. So I can see us getting there. I think the demand's just not there yet. And so with high frame rate, you know, this is important for sporting events or for content that has a lot of, you know, movement and things like that. With VR 360, currently at 4K resolution, I think it's 30 frames per second only. I think the restriction too, and I might be wrong here, is on the device as well. Yeah, it's probably even lower, exactly. And I don't think this is a full 4K stream on the Gyro Optic. I think it's a lower resolution. But yeah, hopefully I'll do some research tonight and have better information tomorrow for you.
Thanks, Ryan. We do need to wrap up. And for those of you who have a Discovery Pass only, so you only have access to the Discovery track, Ryan's session tomorrow, as with all of the other sessions, will be available on demand video on our site within a couple of weeks. So I do believe that all attendees, including Discovery track attendees, will get an email announcing when that video is ready. Also, Wowza is giving away as its door prize a Wowza Streaming Cloud high volume plan for 1 month, which includes 100 hours of compute time and 5,000 gigabytes of global CDN delivery, a $600 value, not bad. And the winner is Joseph Brazil from Scranton School District. Joseph, are you here? Then the winner is Phoebe Connolly from the Washington Post. Phoebe.
I know Phoebe's a customer too, so.
Usually two of them. All right. I'm going to have to go pick another name.